It's important to stop analyzing your relationship to death if you want to be quietly effective and know that other people aren't going to understand you all the time. I've said over and over again that relationships that work because there is no work. Who wants to go to work all day, then go home, get in the car, and say, okay, now I've been working all day, now I gotta go home and we'll work tonight. I gotta work on my relationship, and that's like the rest of the night until midnight. You're working on your relationship, even in your dreams about it. Your whole life becomes an enormous job. You see, there's two ways to look at virtually anything. One is the violent way, and one is the peaceful way, the yin and the yang of the universe. The violent way is to analyze something. When you take something and analyze it, you tear it apart, break it open, crush it, dissect it, pull it all apart, and see what's in it. Analyzing a relationship is a very violent intellectual act. If you've never thought of that, it's a victimizing stance. It's violent intellectually in that it tears apart. Now, the opposite of analyzing something is synthesizing. That is, bringing together, looking at what holds it together, finding similarities, and understanding what we have in common here. How much do we enjoy each other? What are we for? If you're in a relationship and you understand that what you think about is what expands, or as you think the social you be is true, and you're thinking about what is wrong or what is missing in your partner, then for you, your experience of them will be what is missing or what is wrong, because what you think about is what expands. So what you want to do is get focused in your relationships on what you are for. What do you like about that person? Observe that. Unless you want the negativity to expand, then focus your mind on that, because whatever your mind is on will be your experience of them. You can't get behind your eyeballs and be that person and be your spouse. You only have your mind to experience your spouse with. If your mind is on what's wrong, then that's what your experience is. If your mind is on what's missing, on what you don't like, then that will be your experience. And that's what analyzing a relationship almost always is about. You do this and I don't like that, and this is one, and then that becomes your experience on it. When I look at my wife after being gone for a business trip or whatever, I look at the divineness that is in back of her form. I look at the thoughts, the beauty that is in the invisible part of her, and I'm just grateful that she's there rather than thinking about all the things that she's done that I don't like or will, that we argued about or whatever. I don't want that to continue to expand, so I don't want to analyze our relationship. I just want to love her and be loved for what we are, because Robert Frost said, "You love the things you love for what they are, not for what they ought to be or what they used to be or what they can do for you, but for what they are." When you fall in love with someone, you fall in love with what they are. You don't look in their eyes and say, you know, you're really beautiful, but if only your eyes were a different color, then I could like you so much better. Or if only you were a little taller or a little shorter, or your hair were a little this or that. You don't do that. You just go, he's just so gaga in love because you are loving what they are. And then you get into a relationship and mature the relationship, and now your mature relationship is, you know, you should have done this and if only you did that, and that's what destroys it. What you want to do is maintain that I love you for what you are, and we don't have to analyze it. When you're falling in love, you don't analyze anything. You just simply enjoy being with each other. Arguing isn't worth defending. I know that people do it. I do it sometimes. I see it as a weakness when I do it. It is not worth defending. Usually the person doing the most talking and the arguing is the one who was wrong, who was trying to overstate the case. I was reminded of a cartoon in the New Yorker where a fellow said, "I'll tell you why I'm yelling. I'm yelling because I'm wrong." It's like that kind of admission that you finally realize right in the middle of it that, yeah, I'm raising my voice because I don't know what else to do. I've just realized that arguing isn't worth defending. Arguing really is saying, you know, if only you were more like me, then I could like you much better. That's behind almost every argument that we have. If only you could process the world the way I process it, we wouldn't be having any of these problems, but that isn't what you fall in love with. You don't want someone who's exactly like you. That's redundant. I mean, who needs another you? You've already got one of those. What do you need two of them for? You fall in love with what's missing in you, and that's usually the opposite. Usually, the great loves are very much opposites, and that's what you're attracted to. You'll find that working over and over again. If you hear people saying, oh, we have everything in common, we like to do everything together, and we share the same, then you can be sure that relationship isn't going to last long, because who needs somebody else to be exactly like you are already? Now you've got a twin, if there's such a word. So one of the big victimizing traps that we're talking about here in this whole business about being quietly effective is, I simply do not understand you. And then you buying into that and saying, well, then I guess my role is to get you to understand, and I'll do everything I can to get you to understand. And there you go, hook, line, and sinker. You just took the big one. You're on your way to being their victim. Here's some of the traps. I don't understand why you do those things. Right away, you're in the trap. How could you do such a thing? I've never heard of such a thing. How could someone with your brains and your background do such a thing? Now it's like adding a little bit of insult to it. I'm not only shocked and scandalized, but disappointed because you of all people. I'm stumped. You just have me perplexed. That's a great one. Now you've got to explain it one more time so I'll understand. This is a very favorite. We've already been over this 642 times, but one more time and I'll get it. And that one more time, you're going to become their victim. If only you knew how I'm suffering. Now we add guilt to it. All right, you don't understand me, and I'm suffering because I don't understand you. I can't believe you're going to do that now. Not now, not when. Then you can fill in the blank. This is like, I don't understand how you could possibly be going to do something like that now. It isn't a list of techniques to go out and practice doing these things. It is new ways of thinking, new ways of processing, because your life is really how you think about it. As you think, so shall you be are the most important words, I think, in ever written in 7 simple words. As you think, so shall you be. Your thoughts are what create your life. One of the traps that really immobilizes people is what I call the I'ms. Attaching themselves to the past with these self-definitions, these labels that we place on ourselves. And we begin to believe the label. The great Danish theologian Søren Kierkegaard once said that once you label me, you negate me. You have to remember that the label is always something once removed from the actual process. Like you can't drink the word water, and you can't get wet from the formula H2O. And there are 110 different names for water on our planet. Some call it aqua, some call it OP. In Farsi, it's called Op, and then there's Vassar, and you name it. And in 110 different dialects and so on, there's all these, and yet that label is not what it is. The only way you can know water is to experience it, to get in it, to drink it, to be involved in it, and there's the experience of it. And the same thing is true with these I'ms. When you put a label on yourself like I'm no good at math, or I'm lousy at spelling, or I'm deficient at languages or whatever, you just put, I'm a slow learner. You've put a label on yourself. Now that isn't who you are. Who you are is how you think. What you think about is what expands in the world. And you are what you think about all day long. It is your thoughts that create your very life. And all of these definitions that you placed on yourself are just things that keep you from being able to go out and do something about improving the quality of your life. Like if you put I call it the I'm circle. If you say something like, I'm shy, I've always been that way, that's my nature, it's just the kind of person I am. I can't help, but I've always been that way. And you hear these sentences over and over and over again. If you believe that if that becomes who you are, if that label becomes your reality, then you're acting on that the way of processing who you are. And if you say to yourself, I'm shy, and then you see yourself at a gathering, a social gathering, and you see a group of attractive people, then you'd like to go over and talk to them. You say, I think I'll go over and talk to those people, you see. And then you start over there, and you're on your way over, and you say, oh, wait, I can't do that. Why not? Well, because I'm shy. And there you go into this trap. You get yourself into this circle of neurosis in which you can never escape because you are living by the label. As soon as you put the label on yourself, you are no longer willing to do what it takes to overcome this thing that you have imposed upon yourself. You're not born with shy genes. You're not. It isn't something that anybody imposes on you or injects you with. It is a choice. You may not know any other choice, but it is still something that you have elected to do. And until you rid yourself of the label that you may have been carrying around all of your life, and then we begin to practice new ways of being. And what you do is, instead of saying, I'm shy, you say, up until this moment, I've always elected shy behaviors, but today, in this moment, I am going to elect the non-shy behavior. I'm going to try something different. I'm not going to live by the label that I've imposed on myself. And these labels can include things like, I'm not good at sports, I'm clumsy, I've never been able to do things. And you see people who say I'm clumsy or I'm not good at sports, and then you say to them, well, come on, let's go out and shoot some baskets. I say, oh, that'd be great. And then halfway up they said, oh no, I can't do that. Why not? Well, I'm just no good at that sort of thing. And as if you get good at that by putting a label on yourself and then sitting on the couch and becoming a couch potato. You get good at anything by ridding yourself first of the label and processing yourself in a new way. And that new way is to say, I can do anything. I can become anything I want. I have always believed that about myself in my life. A lot of people say, well, if you're a writer, you can't be a good speaker because, a writer is someone who is much more introverted and they keep all their things within them. And the speaker is much more extrovert and those two don't mesh. But I believe you can excel in those areas. I believe you can be a poet and you can also be an athlete. And you can be very, very good at athletics and enjoy that as a very much part of your life. You can also be very gentle and you can enjoy flowers and you can enjoy little children. And you can also enjoy a boxing match and you can enjoy sweating and you can enjoy putting on a tuxedo. Your life can be whatever you choose it. But you first have to rid yourself of these self-defeating I'ms. I'm shy, I'm clumsy, I'm unattractive, I'm ugly, I'm big-boned. I love that one. I'm not organized. People just say things like this as if this is why their life is in disarray. I'm just disorganized, like they inherited disorganized genes. Their genes are all over the place. Their genetics, there's some in the living room, some in the bedroom, some are in California, some are in Florida, some are in Germany. And they're just all disorganized. And I'm a disorganized person, as if that isn't the choice. To be disorganized is to say I make disorganized choices, and you're listening to someone who does that. But every now and then I'll say to myself, well, I just don't like all of these details, and I hate keeping receipts. And I resent the IRS for making me keep all of these things. And that's just not the kind of person I am.